So I did a static import for the HTTP status, as you can see up here. And now I'm gonna go ahead and start the application, and we're gonna go ahead and test it. So I'm gonna go back to the user implementation, user service implementation, and I'm gonna put a breakpoint right here so that I can step through this so that I can see what's happening here. And then I'm gonna click on this little bug icon, which is for debugging. So we're gonna let this come up. Now, the tool, the API client that I'm gonna be using is called Postman. And I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with it, but it's one of the most popular API client applications. So if you just go Google Postman and then you go to the first link, probably gonna be the first link, and it's gonna take you to postman.com, and you'll see a download button here. You can download it, and we're just gonna use it to send HTTP requests, and it's pretty much the most popular API client that I know of. So that's the one we're going to be using. So if you don't have it, you can just go to this URL, postman.com, and then just download it. Or if you want to use a different one, that's fine too, but that's just the one that I'm going to be using in the in this demo. So let's open Postman that I have here. Let's make sure our application is up. So port 8080 is already in use. So I already have an application running on this port. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop it and then run this application again. So I stopped the other application that I had running on port 8081, and I'm gonna go ahead and debug this again and let it come up. And again, I'm gonna be using Postman. So let me show you real quick. So this is Postman right here, and I'm gonna maximize this. So let's make a new request. So I'm gonna click on this plus here. It's gonna give me this new panel, and I'm gonna go to localhost. I was using this, but that's not our API. And then we're going to go to 8081. Okay, so we're gonna go to localhost 8081, which is the port for our application, right? So if you look here, need to minimize this. We're running on port 8081, so we're up now. So that means that we should be able to send a request to user register to actually see what happens. So let's go back to Postman, and we're gonna need to go to user/register. Okay, so we're gonna send the post request here. As you can see, if we take a look back here, we're expecting a post request. Okay, so that's why we have to change this to a post request right here. And then we're also sending a request body. So we're gonna go to body, and this is expecting JSON. So we're gonna click on raw and then go to text and then change it to JSON. So here we're gonna put our JSON data, and remember what we're expecting. So we're expecting first name, and we're gonna set this to I don't know, John, and I'm just gonna copy this, and let's see, first name, last name, username, email. Okay, so last name is Doe, and then email, and let's see, email at john.com or something. And then here we're gonna just pass in John. So this is the body of our request, and we don't need that last comma here. So this represent the JSON information that we're gonna be sending over to the actual API. That's gonna represent if we go back here real quick, so this is gonna represent this request body here. So Spring is gonna take this request body and then convert it into this class, and then it's gonna try to get the first name, last name, username, and email. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So we get the first name, and then we set the value for the first name, and we get the last name, set the value for the last name, and then we get the email, set a value for the email, and then we get the username, and we get the value for the username. Okay, so let's go ahead and give it a try. So we're gonna send this over, and then we're gonna go back to the application and then step through it. So send If we go back, we should be stopped here, and we can take a look here. As you can see, we have first name, last name, and then username, and then the email. Okay, it stops right here. So let's go through this real quick. So I'm going to click on this, which is step over. So it validate this, so we didn't have any errors here. And let's keep going. User, set the user ID, and we can look at the user now. At this point, as soon as we step one line, we can take a look to see the value that was set for that one line. So if we look here, you can see we have the user being constructed, and the ID is some random number here. So we're gonna step again. Now we should have the password. So you can see the password down here. This is a random alphanumeric number string that was created. And if we step again, it's encoding the actual password, so this might take a few seconds. So here it is. So we should have an encoded password. So if you can see here at the bottom, if I can bring this up, we have the encoded password right here. This is what's going to be saved in a database. And let's continue. So I'm going to go through those real quick. Email, new date, encoded password, true. And we set the not locked to true because their account is not locked. We set the role and the authorities from that role and profile. And okay, so let's stop here. Let's see what we have so far. So we have everything. We're ready to save the user. So if we go back, we see right here in the user, you can see all the other things. You can see the logger repository, but we're mostly interested in this. We've already looked at the password. So if we look at the user now, you can see this ID is null. And that's because JPA is going to take care of this. Once it saves it in the database, it's going to set it as a primary key. So here's the ID, first name, last name, username, password, the encoded password that's going to end up being saved in the database. And then we have the email, and look at this, we have the profile image URL. So it takes the base, which is localhost 8081, and then it adds whatever string we added. Last login display null, date is right now as I'm saving this, and you can see the role is now role user. In the authorities, we can see it's a string array with one value in it. So if we take a look, it's got user read, active, they're active, and they're actually not locked. Okay, so at this point we're good. We can continue this. So from here, let's continue step. Okay, so now it saves the user, and we can let this finish. So actually this is supposed to return the user. So this will probably fail because this is expecting a user. So whatever we're gonna, well, it might not fail, but we're not gonna get anything back here as the body because we're returning null here. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this and then try it again. So I'm gonna finish it, and I'm gonna click again, and if we go back, we get 200 okay, but we didn't get any user back. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the database. Okay, so I have Workbench open, and that's the MySQL client that I'm using. So I'm gonna log into my local host, go to our database, which is this one, table. We should have one table in here. This is just Hibernate table. This is the table that we created, and if we select everything, we should see the user that we just added here. Okay, as you can see, all of their information is on there. Okay, and then what I want to do is to just delete this user and then try this call again. So, but this time, let's go back. I'm not gonna go ahead and put any breakpoints. So let's minimize this, and let's go ahead and remove this, and let's go back to Postman, and we're just gonna send the request again. So, well, actually we have to fix this. So here we have to return this user right here. So return this user, and let's restart, and I'll come back once the application is back up. Okay, the application is back up, as you can see here. So let's go back to Postman. Here's Postman, and let's make sure we have our body. Here we have our request body as a JSON. right here. So whenever we send this request, we should get a 200 OK like we did last time, but also we should have all of the new user information coming down here. So let's go ahead and try that. Send, and here we go. Okay, so this is coming from the database. As you can see now, they have an ID, which is the primary key, and this is all the information that they sent to us: their password, email, profile image, and everything else. So as you can see, they have their role. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. And the role is here, and the authorities from that role, they have user read, and then their account is active and they're not locked. Okay, so this is how we're gonna be creating user in the application, and from that point on, since they exist now in the database, we can use that user to actually log in. So over the next videos, we're gonna implement the login where we can send this user name and their password, and then we'll be able to get a JSON Web Token. So if we go back to the application now, we should have some logging for their password. So new user password is this. Okay, so we're gonna be able to use this as the password of the user so that we can actually log in.